I recently finished reading a book called My Pinup by Pulitzer Prize-winning writer Hilton Als. My Pinup is a 2-part memoir about love, loss, desire, race, and queerness. The central figure and driving force in the story is Prince, soundtracking Al's endless quest to find the man he loves and become his Dorothy Parker. Reading this book emotionally devastated me in ways that I didn't even know possible. So, with this book fresh on my mind and the upcoming release of the Diamonds and Pearls Expanded Edition, Prince has been on my mind a lot lately. So, here I am grappling with that in the best way I know how, logging onto the internet and vomiting my less than fully formed emotional thoughts on the matter like I always do. So let's get right into it. Prince Rogers Nelson, known mononymously to the world as Prince, was universally beloved for a multitude of reasons. As far as his musical prowess went, prolific isn't even the word. The man was his own genre. Before even releasing his first record, he'd already mastered over 20 instruments, and throughout his career, he was known to write 1 song a day at minimum. He released 39 albums while he was alive, and who knows how many more we might have gotten if it weren't for his lengthy legal battle with Warner. But public regard for Prince goes far beyond musical talent. Prince managed to cultivate a level of mystique that we will never see from a celebrity ever again. And that in itself is something to be mourned. I'm of the firm belief that many of his diehard fans who suffered the harshest blows from his death were subconsciously grieving the loss of that tug of war with the mystique. The type of celebrity who's so charismatic that it's too easy to forgive all the times he was drunk off his own ego. The type of celebrity who gave just enough of at least a version of himself away, but never enough to reveal who he truly was, making his audience only crave more, leading them to ponder, is this public-facing front that he puts on truly the real him? We will never know. But that's never gonna stop us from trying. But Prince's most unforgettable and alluring quality worth discussing was his penchant for scandal and controversy. Being the smart provocateur that he was, this was just another tool that he weaponized to his advantage. Many of his lyrics are so unbelievably horny and raunchy even by today's standards. So much so, in fact, that it got him in a lot of hot water and even had lasting effects on the future of the circulation and distribution of music as a whole. On Prince's 1984 magnum opus, Purple Rain, there was a track called Darling Nikki, a song where Prince sings about encountering an unashamed nymphomaniac in a hotel lobby.
I knew a girl named Nikki, I guess you could say she was a sex fiend. I met her in a hotel lobby, masturbating with a magazine.
Tipper Gore, the wife of then Senator Al Gore, heard Darling Nikki after buying Purple Rain for her daughter, and was so troubled by the lyrics that she rallied the Parents Music Resource Center and held a televised congressional hearing about shielding the children from sex and profanity in music. This was not a joke. She got the RIAA involved, eventually leading to negotiations that culminated in the creation of the Parental Advisory label on albums. That's right. Prince was such a naughty boy that his seismic sexual transgressions in his lyrics changed music distribution forever. All jokes aside, this is incredibly troubling for a number of reasons. After all, we live in a culture where sexuality and nudity are considered more threatening than gore and violence, And I can't even imagine what kind of long-lasting negative effects that Tipper Gore's vehement fear of sex must have had on the development of her poor daughter. Her daughter was close to broaching the age of 13 at the time, an age where many girls start going through puberty and having their first sexual awakenings, which sadly gets suppressed a lot of the time by the adults around them. As Maggie Nelson wrote in The New Yorker, "I hate the way this possibility of experience for boys and girls and everyone in between gets drowned out in moralistic crap about power and consent, all of which is necessary but eclipses the real divine electric dirtiness that is possible between excited young bodies who have accepted that they have desire and somehow manage to find each other. I want people, especially girls, to know that's possible. It's possible even when you're 13, 15, and it can be great. In any event, Tipper Gore had it so wrong. Of all the music, all the forms of sexuality that might have been on offer to the youth in 1984, Darling Nikki was first-rate. Female autonomy, mind-blowing, consensual, victimless perversion, and a dirty little prince who wants to grind. I am so getting demonetized for this video, so I might as well just roll with it at this point. Prince's chameleonic nature and eternally shape-shifting presentation, oscillating between both ends of the nebulous gender spectrum. This is one of the many qualities that made Prince so special to queer people. Being the Gemini that he is, this was something he took to so naturally and with such ease, shifting between alter egos of all genders like Jamie Starr, Camille, Joey Coco, and 20-something other pseudonyms I'm forgetting right now because he honestly had way too many. For queer people, reinventing yourself and trying on different personalities and forms of presentation is often a form of liberation for us. A way to claim ownership of your own identity when the world is bent on putting you back in your place by telling you who you're supposed to be and expecting you to adhere to that norm. Prince also had queer musicians in his bands, including Wendy Melvoin on lead guitar and Lisa Coleman on keyboards in his Purple Rain era backing band, The Revolution. These two women were putting queerness on full blast in a mainstream rock stars band in the 80s, and they are so worth celebrating and acknowledging for that alone. Not to mention they were phenomenal musicians. But one of the most interesting and notable qualities in Prince's work was his masterful ability to marry the sacred with the profane. Prince would often juxtapose his most vulgar and raunchy lyrics with a prayer, an undercurrent highlighting the tension between sexuality and spiraling spirituality, two things that he'd clearly spent his entire life attempting to reconcile. He even did this with visuals in a very intentional way. The Controversy video was shot inside a church. Here he is standing inside a place of worship, singing about all the sordid, dirty gossip and scandal surrounding his life. And then when we get to the bridge, delivering a prayer.
My Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come.
But when you really think about it, specifically with regards to sex, the sacred and the profane are a lot more intrinsically connected than we'd assume. I would even venture to argue that the most common utterances of the Lord's name occur during sex, when people scream and moan the phrase, "Oh God," while having an orgasm. Prince as an entity is that type of phenomenon personified. The fear, shame, confusion, arousal, and eventual embrasure of one's burgeoning sexuality that culminates in this type of awakening. But as is common in so many of these situations where sex and religion intersect, Prince's personal relationship to the queer community comes with a dark underbelly of fear and contempt. Prince was a devout Jehovah's Witness in the final decades of his life, and his faith was often the catalyst for the dissolution of his relationships with the queer people in his orbit. It was even alleged that he would only reunite the revolution if Wendy and Lisa renounced their homosexuality publicly, a claim that made many of his queer fans uneasy at best and disappointed at worst. I want to highlight a passage from Hilton Als' book where he beautifully encapsulates the betrayal that so many of Prince's queer fans, especially queer men of color, had felt in the aftermath of his corporate heel turn and conversion to the Jehovah's Witness faith. Maybe Prince was trying on power like he tried on garters or fishnets, but he didn't jettison the suits or his suit fast enough to win me back. And if it hadn't been for the love of others, I might never have forgiven him. So until I met him, I saw Prince only through other people, when I saw him at all. He was like a bride who had left me at the altar of difference to embrace the normative. Could my queer heart ever forgive him? Prince was many things. Whether you view him as a legend, a provocateur, a sex symbol, or a tragic martyr, underneath all of that, he was a flawed human being. Like with any fan-artist relationship, Hilton Als' lengthy story regarding Prince lacks a happy ending. We don't get an answer as to whether or not he ever did forgive Prince, because at the end of the day, that never really mattered. And through all the disappointment, heartbreak, and elation that comes with his relationship to Prince's music, Als maintains an unwavering sense of gratitude for his personal journey of self-actualization, a fire that Prince helped stoke. And at the end of the day, that is far more important than any parasocial fan-artist relationship remaining intact.